صل وسلم على إنك اللهم إنا نسألك من كل خير ما سألك منه حبيبك ونبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونستعيذ بك من كل شر ما استعاذك منه نبيك وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم إنا نسألك أن تعزنا وتنصر المسلمين في كل مكان وأن تعلي بفضلك كلمة الحق والدين وأن تشمل بعنايتك ورعايتك
Recording in
وحمايتك
progress.
إخوان المجاهدين في كل مكان، إخوان المجاهدين في فلسطين، إخوان المجاهدين في أفغانستان، إخوان المسلمين المجاهدين في بلادنا في كل مكان. اللهم اكتب لهم التوفيق والنصر والفتوحات في كل معركة خاضوها يا رب العالمين. ربنا افرغ علينا الصبر وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا آتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Please remain standing for the Philippine National Anthem and the Bangsamoro Regional Hymn.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, helas ng sinakanan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyag ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagagang tutok sa simoy at sa langit ng pangaw, ay hinatang tulad, awit sa paglayang minamahal, ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na naghihiling, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di maghihiling. Luma ng araw ng walhagit pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling ko. Ang hindi kaya na pagkay mag-aami, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Simula noon hanggang ngayon, isa ang naging layon. Magkaisa at magbuklod, karitingan ay marugdod. Tumayo tayo mula sa hamon ng nakaraan, niyapos ang panganib na umanlang. Pinangako sa puso at paniniwala, ang ginhawa para sa kabataan. Bangsamoro ay tagumpay, bunga ng pawis, sugo at buhay. Kapayapaan, katarungan, ay atin ang nakamtan. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, pagpalain Bangsamoro. Bangsamoro, Bangsamoro, lagi kang mamahalin. Walang pipigil sa damdamin, mga pangako'y tutuparin. Habang buhay kami sa'yo'y magbabantay, mananatili sa puso't isipan. Ang kahapong humimlay na nagbuwis ng buhay, nasa piling na ng may kapal. Bangsamoro ay tagumpay, bunga ng pawis, sugo at buhay. Kapayapaan, katarungan, ay atin ang nakamtan. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, pagpalain Bangsamoro.
the honorable members of the Parliament, the Honorable Abbas Ahmad,
Present.
Abbas
Present.
Abbas
Makita ako pagka.
Abbas Basit Sarip, Abu Mujib, Adyong Rahman Alonto,
Present.
Ahang Abdullah, Alamia Liza,
Present.
Alauddin Faiz,
Present.
Ali Lanong Jr., Ali Edi Mapag,
Present.
Alil Cesar, Amboloto Suarto,
Present.
Ampatuan Baitan, Anayatin Susana, Asmawil Muslima, Balindong Ali Pangalian,
Present.
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 Present. Present. Present. Mujahid. Present.
Walang audio.
Present.
Present.
Ang audio.
Bal Muanger, Ismail Rasul, Jajuri Raisa, Yakilan Muslimin,
Present.
Aron Lidasan Mussolini,
Present. Lidasan.
Loon Don Mustafa,
Present.
Lorena Jose Ribani, Makako Abdurauf,
Present.
Makapar Abdullah, Makaraya Jamel,
Sa katowi, nag-uniform ako gapit sa folder ito sa CCTV. Dinalikan mo
Kasalo Marjani,
Present.
Manguda Dato Kadafe,
Saan daw ni kinain?
Present. Present. Present.
Mantawil Malik, Mastura Dato Tukaw, Mastura City Siara, Mawali Lamil Bahar, Mitimbang Dato Pantaw, Mitmog Rasul,
Here.
Mujahid Abdul Muhmin,
Present.
Munyot, Pranon Soy, Pakasa Mabayda,
Present.
Pak Abdullah, Pangandaman Nabila Margarita,
Present.
Ramos Gamila, Rimbang Edrisa Naser, Sakar Modayaw, Selendad Said, Salih Al-Said, Saliga Romeo, Salik Ali, Sangki Ali, Sani Punduma,
Present.
Satar Alsan,
Present.
Sema Omar Yaser,
Here.
Sema Romeo, Sheikh Said,
Present.
Silongan Aida,
Present.
Sulaiman Ali,
Present.
Tago Paisaling,
I am here, Your Honor. Present.
Tan Nabil, Uja Sahi, Ulama Melanio,
Present.
Usman Safar, Jacob Mohammed.
Present.
Mr. Speaker, 17 members inside the plenary hall and 4 members joining via Zoom for a total of 61 members of the Parliament responded to the call. I therefore certify the presence of a quorum.
With 61 members responded to the roll call, constituting a quorum certified by the Secretary General. Parliament will now proceed with the conduct of its official business. Recognize the Honorable Majority Leader, MP Attorney Lanang Ali Jr.
Mr. Speaker, before we start, Mr. Speaker, the Chief Minister would like to address this august body, Mr. Speaker, to give us a report on the status of the Bangsamoro government, Mr. Speaker. May we respectfully recognize the Chief Minister, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Chief Minister and
Thank you very much to everyone. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Ultiman karong ipinareserve ko sa kasa.
To the Wali of the Bangsamoro, Sheikh Khalifa Nando, Parliament Speaker Attorney Ali Pangalian Balindong, colleagues in the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, Parliament, members of the Cabinet, friends and partners for peace and development, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Bangsamoro. Again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Good afternoon to everyone. I am pleased to join everyone for today's Chief Minister's Hour with a grateful heart. I join you this afternoon with several accomplishments that are truly beneficial for the Bangsamoro. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bangsamoro government, through the Ministry of Health, remains undaunted in our fight against COVID-19. Despite the looming threat of the Delta variant, the BARM remains to be a low-risk area for COVID-19. The MOH BARM just last week provided a total of 400 oxygen tanks to the Cotabato Regional Medical Center and the Amay Pakpak Medical Center, both of which are COVID-19 referral hospitals. As of September 22, 2021, our health ministry has already administered 430,191 vaccinations against COVID-19, with 257,451 fully vaccinated or soon to be considered as such. Mr. Speaker, that might sound a lot. but we need more people to get vaccinated. And I once again reiterate our request to our dear colleagues in the chamber. Let's help our frontline healthcare workers by inviting more people to take the job and help BARM reach the herd immunity that we earnestly need. We remain grateful to our Bangsamoro health warriors for making sure that our people are safe and that our region is protected with virus. Of course, the government of the day understands that the socio-economic threats of COVID-19 are widely affecting the lives of our people. This is also why the Ministry of Social Services and Development, Ministry of Interior and Local Government, our very own Project Tabang, and BARM Ready conducted a convergence activity dubbed as, quote, Ayuda mula sa Bangsamoro government, unquote. We sent out 2,500 food packs and 10,000 hygiene kits to select communities in Lanao del Sur in response to its provincial IATF resolution prohibiting non-essential movement on Sundays and mass gathering for September 4 to 13, 2021. Mr. Speaker, I am also happy to share that the Ministry of Labor and Employment has consistently provided opportunities for our young tertiary graduates all over the region. Just recently, MOLE BARM has been distributing the stipends of its government internship program, or GIP, beneficiaries. In tawi-tawi, 149 beneficiaries received their stipends last August 29. In Cotabato City, around 145 beneficiaries received theirs last month. Similar programs were also conducted in other provinces in the BARM region. I hope that our ministries can help in providing opportunities to our fresh graduates and pave the way for the future of the Bangsamoro. Meanwhile, I am also happy to report to the August body that the provincial government of Sulu has officially received 3 desalination machines. The island municipalities of Haji Panglima Tabil, Pandami, and Pata are the recipients of the said machines, which have an output capacity of 22,000 liters of water per day and can operate 8 to 10 hours. Each machine costs 20 million pesos. These are the first among the 10 sets of machines that will be distributed to other areas in Sulu and in the province of tawi-tawi. This is the government of the day's intervention to address the scarcity of safe drinking water in our island provinces. It's important to take note that this concern was brought up during the first Musawwara Forum in the BARM conducted earlier this year. And true to our commitment with the civil society leaders we consulted, we are making this promise a reality. Colleagues in this sacred chamber, this discourse would not be complete without touching on our efforts for our dear former combatants. Just recently, the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Agrarian Reform distributed 5,000 fruit-bearing tree seedlings to former combatants of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front and the Moro National Liberation Front. After all, the entire journey would not be possible without them and those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Mr. Speaker, with the recent reopening of classes in various schools all over the region, I am exhilarated to inform everyone about various programs that our education ministry has been working on recently. The Ministry of Basic and Higher Technical Education began constructing 3-story dormitory buildings in 6 state universities and colleges in the BARM, which include Mindanao State University, Maguindanao and Dato Udin Siswat, Mindanao State University main campus in Marawi City, Mindanao State University Sulu in Hulu, Mindanao State University tawi-tawi in Bongao, Basilan State College, and the Cotabato State University here in Cotabato City. With 132 bed capacity amounting to 39.13 million pesos, these dormitories will feature dining halls, study rooms, and conference halls. This is the Bangsamoro government's way to introduce innovative solutions to long-standing problems and explore pioneering approaches to elevate the Bangsamoro educational system while appreciating our rich history, culture, and traditions. Later this year, MBHTA will also commence the construction of 22 units of 2-story with 10 classroom school buildings for the basic and higher education learners across the region, with a total amount of 471.6 million. We are also happy to share that 3,256 senior high school students took the recent conducted Bangsamoro Assistance for Science Education or BASE qualifying examination conducted in various areas all over the BARM. The qualifiers, of course, will become BASE scholars and will receive incentives including a monthly cash assistance of 8,000 pesos from the Ministry of Science and Technology, inshallah. This is proof, my dear colleagues, that we have young children who want to achieve better lives and have the merits to do so. It is up to us to support them on whatever capacity and provide the track towards becoming the future of our region. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Environment, Natural Resources and Energy, and our dear friends from the Department of Agrarian Reform already began exploring the upcoming distribution of government-owned lands, or GOLS, in Lanao del Sur to qualified beneficiaries. Pursuant to AO number 75, series of 2019, issued by President Rodrigo Duterte, all government offices, including MNRE, are directed to identify lands owned by the government devoted to or suitable for agriculture, which will be distributed to qualified beneficiaries. In the discussion held, technical assistance was brought up in surveying the 6,667 hectare idle GOLS, particularly in Camp Ketli in Marawi City, Sagyaran, Tiagapo, and Marantao. Colleagues in this august body, in our quest to restabilize our regional economy, the Regional Bangsamoro Board of Investments has been working day in and day out to bring in new investors and provide more opportunities to the everyday Bangsamoro. Capacity programs for our farmers based in the highlands were conducted to guide them in finding markets for their crops and to link them on the programs and services of both government and non-government agencies to decide on either starting their new farm investments or to level up their routine farming crops to generate more income. The Board of Investments also approved a 398 million pesos tourism-related investment in Cotabato City. This is in addition to the 2 billion pesos worth of investments from the Al-Muzaffar Agri-Ventures Incorporated, or AMABI, on Cavendish banana plantation in the province of Maguindanao. Mr. Speaker, exploratory projects on banana investments in the special geographic areas in North Cotabato have also started rolling in BBOI's pipelines. It is also worth mentioning that for the first time, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, BARM, received recognition for its most competitive local government units, LGUs, in the region during the Cities and Municipalities Competitiveness Index, CMCI Summit, held on September 3, 2021. CMCI is an annual ranking of cities and municipalities and is a program that encourages LGUs to gather and submit data that measure their performance in core and convergent pillars of economic dynamism, government efficiency, infrastructure, and resiliency. The DTI added innovations as a new pillar for the competitiveness index. The awarding was conferred by the DTI through its Competitiveness Bureau and in partnership with the BARM's Ministry of Trade, Investments, and Tourism, or MTIT. To help revive the poultry industry, which has also been severely affected by the pandemic, the MTIT, through its Bureau of Investments, BOI, organized a poultry industry investment forum and business matching to provide investment information, capability, and opportunities to those who are interested to venture into poultry business. The MTIT also convened the presidents of the provincial chambers of commerce in BARM, including Special Geographic Area, or SGA, for the organization of the Regional Chamber of Commerce and Industry, CCI, held on September 20, 2021. This will certainly strengthen the public and private sector engagement. Most of these accomplishments, ladies and gentlemen, would not be possible without the support of you, my dear colleagues. Through our respective Transitional Development Impact Fund, or TDIF, we have managed to provide programs and projects that address the exact needs of the constituencies you represent. Whether it's infrastructure, healthcare, equipment, or livelihood programs, the TDIF has been responsive to the ever diverse demands of the Bangsamoro. What makes these efforts even more unique is the extent of its reach. From the 5 provinces, the city of Cotabato, and the SGA barangays in North Cotabato, TDIF programs have also reached Bangsamoro communities outside the core territory, making this government more inclusive and gets to serve more Bangsamoro communities every day. And for that, my dear MPs, we thank you. Let me also share to this august body that our intergovernmental relations body has been working hand in hand to resolve issues that concern both governments, specifically those that necessitate coordination and cooperation to ensure mutual respect and recognition of each other's powers and authorities. Last Monday, September 20, our colleagues from the Department of Public Works and Highways and the Ministry of Public Works have entered into a memorandum of agreement and interim implementation arrangement or protocols of various infrastructure projects of the national government in the BARM. The event highlighted the turnover of DPWH 12, Cotabato City District Engineering Office, to the Ministry of Public Works. There is also significant progress with the discussions on the operationalization of the BOL provisions on the Bangsamoro policy. A technical working group, TWG, on Kabatangan properties has also already convened twice to trace out and deliberate details of its terms of reference. In a meeting, ladies and gentlemen, the IGRB also discussed how the Southern Philippine Development Authority, SPDA, can be repurposed to ensure that there is Bangsamoro participation in the said agency. We are also delighted to inform that the call for nominations of the sectoral representations in the Council of Leaders is also in the pipeline. Pursuant to Article 6, Section 9 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, the BARM shall establish a Council of Leaders that shall advise the Chief Minister on matters of governance in the region. Aside from the elected officials, the said council shall also be representative from traditional leaders, non-Moro, indigenous communities, Bangsamoro community outside the BARM, and other sectors that the government of the day may deem necessary. This platform enables us to have more inclusive programs and take on the different dimensions of our region. With the creation of new offices in the BARM, such as the Bangsamoro Pilgrimage Authority, the IGRB has included in its agenda during the 9th IGRB meeting conducted yesterday the matter of coordination between the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos and the Bangsamoro Pilgrimage Authority involving pilgrimage of Muslims to Mecca, Saudi Arabia for Hajj and Umrah, among others. Mr. Speaker, members of this august body, let me end this afternoon's remarks with probably the most significant topic that we have right now, the proposed extension of the Bangsamoro transition period. Last Tuesday, the Bicameral Conference Committee met to iron out the two versions of the extension bill passed by the House of Representatives and the Senate, respectively. We are happy to note that the meeting was concluded successfully. Alhamdulillah, the House of Representatives ratified the said BICAM report, and we expect that these two will be ratified in the Senate very soon, inshallah. We cannot be more thankful to His Excellency, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, for once again proving that he is truly a son of Mindanao and a Moro by heart. In the same way, these efforts would not be possible without the help of our allies in the two chambers of Congress. To Senator Francis Tolentino, Majority Floor Leader Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri, and Senate President Vicente Soto III, thank you for taking a leap of faith with the Bangsamoro. We are forever grateful to you and your colleagues in the Senate for making this process easy and for your shared vision that the progressive Bangsamoro will eventually result into a more progressive Philippines. To our dear senators who voted for the measure, we will make sure that your vote will not be forgotten. And of course, to our Congressman Ismail Tutu Mangudadato, thank you for leading the fight in the lower house. It is through his commitment, along with the support of Majority Floor Leader Congressman Martin Romualdez and House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco, that the same measure won an overwhelmingly 187 yes votes with no abstention and no opposition. This is yet another proof, ladies and gentlemen, that the rest of the country wants the BARM to succeed. We cannot let them down, and more importantly, we cannot let our people down. With this issue finally settled, I urge everyone, those who continue to support the government of the day and those few who share different opinions, it's time to move forward and it's time to bring one clear agenda. We are Bangsamoro first. Isantabi na ang politika, Bangsamoro muna. With all this being said, Mr. Speaker, I wish to remind our dear colleagues that we have more work to do. We have more issues that bind us as one people. We have a shared history that we can never refute. We are one in DNA, in spirit, and in aspirations. I hope that the success of the measure will bring us towards a stronger BARM, where everyone has space and has a say to its future. This is ours to take care of. With the grace of the Almighty Allah, everything will be okay, inshallah. The extended transition period does not mean that we will be complacent to our work. Instead, we should double time to assure more programs, projects, and policies coming into life. This is arguably the most crucial stage of our journey to peace and development in our homeland. In the noble Quran, the Almighty Allah said, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, wa tawakkal ala Allah, wa kafa billahi wakila. And rely upon Allah, and sufficient is Allah as a disposer of affairs. Surah Al-Ahzab, verse number 3. In this prose, we find ease that so long as we put our trust in the Almighty, our work for the Bangsamoro will be under His guidance. Let us all continue to serve the Bangsamoro with pure hearts and sincere intentions. Wabillahi tawfiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Marami pong salamat sa inyo lahat.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We thank the Honorable Chief Minister, MP Ahud Balawag Ibrahim Al-Hajj, for delivering the Government of the Day's report to this Honorable Chamber, the Bangsamoro Parliament. Majority Leader?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I think we proceed to the, I move to, Mr. Speaker, I move to include in the Journal of the Parliamentary Records the reports or speech of the Chief Minister, Mr. Speaker.
The speech of the Honorable Chief Minister is hereby included in the journal and the records of the Bangsamoro Parliament. Please
Yes, Mr.
proceed,
Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Yes,
we thank the Chief Minister.
Yes,
Again.
Mr. Speaker,
Okay.
we very happy with the report of the Chief Ministers and we very thankful for the Chief Minister, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Mr. Speaker, before we start, Mr. Speaker, I move to amend the order of business to include PR number 529 Uh, That's all. And so I move, Mr. Speaker.
Do we have the attachment of
Yes,
this?
Mr. Speaker, we
PR.
already
Okay,
distributed the PR number 529, Mr. Speaker.
so there's a motion that to amend the order of business to include PR 529. Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the order of business is hereby amended by the inclusion of one item under the referral. This
Yes,
is
Mr. Speaker.
PR 529.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we proceed. We are on item number 6, reading and approval of journal of the previous session. And a while ago, the Secretariat have distributed the journal number 73, Mr. Speaker. So therefore, I move to dispense with the reading of journal number 73, and I further move for the approval of the same, Mr. Speaker.
So motion that the reading of the journal of the previous session be dispensed with and to move further with its approval. Is there any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, may we move to item number 7, resolutions. May we request the Secretary General to read the first proposed resolution for today's session.
Secretary General is so requested.
Proposed resolution number 486, a resolution calling on the Bangsamoro Transition Authority to promote adherence to the United Nations Human Rights Council resolution, providing for protection against violence and discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity by condemning the public shaming of the 6 young women whose heads were shaved in public view in the province of Maguindanao as punishment for allegedly being member of the LGBTQ+ community. Principal author is MP Maysara D. Latif and co-author is MP Dato Tucao O. Mastura.
Mr. Speaker, I move to treat this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the day.
There's a motion that PR 486 be treated as simple resolution, shall be therefore included in the business for the day. Is there any objection? Hearing none, PR 486 is hereby treated as simple resolution, shall be included in the business for the day.
Mr. Speaker, may we request the Secretary General to read the next proposed resolution.
Secretary General is so requested.
Proposed resolution number 527, a resolution calling and urging the Bangsamoro Commission for the Preservation of Cultural Heritage to promote, protect, and preserve the wooden boat making tradition in the Bangsamoro, to possibly develop or establish a school of living tradition for boat making therein. Authors are MPs Don Mustafa A. Loong, Baintan A. Ampatuan, Amil Bahar S. Mawalil, Liza M. Alamia, Rasul Y. Mitmog Jr., and Rasul E. Ismael.
Mr. Speaker, I move to treat this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the day.
There's a motion that PR 527 be treated as simple resolution and therefore be transferred in the business for the day. Is there any objection? Hearing none, PR 527 is hereby treated as simple resolution and is included in the business for the day.
Mr. Speaker, may we request the Secretary General to read the next proposed resolution.
Secretary General is requested to read PR 529, the title and the authors, name of the authors.
Proposed resolution number 529, a resolution urging the different ministries, offices, and office of the members of Parliament of the Bangsamoro government to adopt government internship program or GIP in their regular program and allocate funds for the 25% of the government counterpart. Principal author is MP Romeo K. Sema. Co-authors are Deputy Speaker Hatimil E. Hasan, MP Adsfar H. Usman, Muslimin A. Jakilan, Deputy Speaker Attorney Omar Yasser C. Sema, MP Abdul Muhmin A. Mujahid, MP Bainon G. Caron, MP Abdullah E. Gayak, MP Ibrahim D. Ali, MP Abdul Wahab M. Pak, MP Narciso C. U. Eke, MP Ali O. Salik, and MP Cesar H. Alil.
Mr. Speaker, I move to take this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the day.
There's a motion that PR 529 be treated as simple resolution and therefore be included in the business for the day. Is there any objection? Hearing none, PR 529 is hereby treated as simple resolution and is included in the business for the day.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we are on item number 8, privilege hour. I respectfully move for the recognition of the MP Rasul Mitmog to deliver his privilege speech, Mr. Speaker.
The distinguished gentleman from Lumbabayabao in Cotabato City, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Attorney Rasul Mitmag Jr. is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, fellow colleagues in this parliament, mga kasamahan dito sa session hall, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Gusto ko lang po sana gamitin itong oras na to para ipaalala sa ating mga sarili na bukas, 24 September, ay ang Malispong Massacre. Ito po ay nangyari noong 1974. 1,500 po na kalalakihan ng Moro, 3,000 kababaihan at mga kabataan ang namatay sa Malispong Palimbang, Sultan Kudarat. Hindi po natin sila kilalang lahat. Subalit, kailangan po natin tandaan yung nangyari at bigyang pugay yung mga namatay ng mga oras na iyon. Yung pagsimula ko po dito sa BTA, ito po yung pinakaunang event na na-attenan ko. Yung first recognition ng local government unit ng Malispong. Sa national government naman po, kinilala nila na itong transgression ay nangyari noong 2013 through Republic Act 10368, Human Rights Victims and Reparations Recognition Act of 2013. Hindi po to dapat mangyari ulit, mga kasamahan. We should now, as a matter of fact, prioritize yung mga batas na kinakailangan na ma-establish yung mga transitional justice mechanism while fully implementing yung mga naipasa na natin, katulad sa BICOBAR, katulad sa creation of reading materials for Bangsamoro history and IEP history. Kinakailangan po hindi natin makalimutan yung mga pangyayari na nagawa nung nakaraan para hindi po to maulit ngayon. Salamat po, Mr. Speaker, for providing me this moment dahil bukas po ay 24 September. Ito po ay konting pag-alala para po ma-renew natin yung ating commitment sa pag-advokasya ng hustisya para sa mga taong po. At sana po ma-establish na natin ng matatag ang BICOBAR kasi sa tingin ko, ang reason bakit may BICOBAR tayo dahil sa mga sitwasyon na nangyari katulad ng Malispong Massacre. Maraming salamat po mga kasama.
Thank you very much, MP Ras Mitmag, for reminding us of that event happened decades ago.
Yes,
Majority
Mr. Speaker,
Leader.
we now proceed on item number 9, first stage of bill. May we again request the Secretary General to read the first proposed
Do we move first that the privilege speech
Yes,
of
Mr.
MP
Speaker.
Ras be included in the
Of
parliamentary
course, Mr.
records?
Speaker. Move to include in the parliamentary records the privileged speech of MP.
The privilege speech of MP Rasul Mitmag is hereby moved and be part of the parliamentary records.
May we request the Secretary General to read the first proposed bill on first stage, Parliament Bill number 126.
Secretary General is so requested.
BTA Parliament Bill number 126. An act to upgrade the existing Datuudin Sinsuat District Hospital in the municipality of Datuudin Sinsuat, province of Maguindanao, from its present status with a 50-bed capacity into 100-bed capacity, its facilities and professional health care, authorizing the increase of its medical personnel and appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Authors are MP Safrullah M. Dipatuan, Zulkarnain M. Abbas, Baintan A. Ampatuan, and Susana S. Anayatin.
Mr. Speaker, this is a private member bill. Again, any members of the parliament who would like to be co-authors, they may do so by upping the document that was distributed before this session, Mr. Speaker.
Any members, please
yes,
fill up the fill up
yes.
the form and submit that to the secretariat. Please proceed, Majority
Yes,
Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we are now on second stage of bill, item number 11. 10, Mr. Speaker, on BTA Parliament Bill number 114, to deliver her sponsorship speech, may we respectfully recognize MP Maysara Dandamon Latif, Mr. Speaker.
The distinguished lady from Tugaya, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Attorney Maysara Damdaman Latif is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Mr. Speaker, members of Parliament, and distinguished colleagues, today I have the honor and privilege to seek the approval of proposed BTA Bill number 114, entitled An Act Constructing and Establishing the Lanao del Sur Provincial Hospital, located at Municipality of Tugaya, Province of Lanao del Sur, BARM, and appropriating funds therefore and for other purpose. Mr. Speaker, the Bangsamoro government is mandated to adopt a policy on health, especially in this time of pandemic, that provides for a comprehensive and integrated health service for its constituents. To establish by law a general hospital system to serve the health requirements of its people and ensure that the individual basic right to life shall be attainable through the prompt intervention of excellent and affordable medical services. The Bangsamoro government shall protect, promote the right to health of the people and instill health consciousness among them. It shall also uphold the people's right to have access to essential health services, among others, that promote their well-being. Mr. Speaker, rural residents often encounter barriers to health care that limit their ability to obtain the care they need. In order for rural health residents to have sufficient access, it's necessary and appropriate that it must be available and obtained in a timely manner. Even when an adequate supply of healthcare services exists, there are other factors to consider in terms of access. For instance, to have good healthcare access, a rural resident must also have the means to reach out and use these services, like transportation that may be located at a faraway and remote distances. Mr. Speaker, making healthcare not only available but also accessible to the constituents residing in rural areas by establishing hospitals at every municipality is in fulfillment of our mandate to uphold the people's right to have access to essential health services. Thus, Mr. Speaker, this is for this reason that I humbly ask my colleagues in the Parliament to support the immediate enactment of this bill. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Maysara Latif.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer this to the Committee on Health and the Committee on Finance, Budget and Management.
BTA Parliament Bill number 114 is hereby referred to the Committee on Health and to the Committee on Budget and Finance Management.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, again, may we respectfully recognize MP Maysara Dandamon Latif to deliver a sponsorship speech on proposed bill number 123.
Once again, MP Maysara Damdaman Latif is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, members of Parliament, and distinguished colleagues. Again, today I have the honor and privilege to seek approval of proposed BTA Bill 123, entitled An Act Establishing a 25-bed municipal hospital in the municipality of Butig, province of Lanao del Sur, and appropriating funds therefore. Mr. Speaker, as I said, hospitals play a vital role in the healthcare system. Hospitals are care institutions that have organized medical and other qualified staff to deliver medical, nursing, radiology, laboratory, and related services every day and all the time. Hospitals offer a variable range of acute, convalescent, and terminal care using diagnostic, preventive, and curative services in response to acute and chronic conditions arising from disease, as well as injuries and genetic abnormalities. With all these various services, hospitals have been able to generate essential information for research, expertise, education, and care for patients. Thus, Mr. Speaker, Butig officially is a sixth-class municipality in the province of Lanao del Sur. According to the 2020 census, it has a population of 22,768 people. It is considered one of the oldest settlements in the center of Mindanao, a sultanate located in the Pangampong Principality of Unayan, Lanao, Mindanao. Butig belongs to the Confederation of the Sultans of Lanao. This historic town is and has been known to be the cradle of Maranao civilization. More importantly, the municipality has also been known to be one of the strongholds of our Mujahideen brothers and sisters for a long period of time. Considering its distance to the cities, which could usually take more or less 2 hours, establishing a 25-bed municipal hospital will help Butig attain the mandate of BARM government to ensure that there will be prompt intervention of excellent and affordable medical services in time of pandemic. It is for this reason, Mr. Speaker, that I humbly ask my colleagues in the Parliament to support the immediate enactment of a municipal hospital in Butig. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Salam.
Mr.
Warahmatullahi
Speaker.
taala wabarakatuh. Yes, proceed, Majority
I
Leader.
move to refer this to the Committee on Rules and the Committee on Finance, Budget and Management.
Committee on Rules.
Committee on Health, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Sorry.
Parliament Bill number 123 is hereby referred to the Committee on Health and the Committee on Finance, Budget and Management.
Mr. Speaker, can we have a 15-minute break for asang prayers?
Session is suspended for 15 minutes. Resume. Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we are on item number 13, business for the day. We are now on parliamentary consideration of PR proposed resolution number 486. May I move to open the period of interpellation and debate, Mr. Speaker.
The period of debate and interpellation on PR 486 is hereby open.
Mr. Speaker, may we respectfully recognize MP May Sara Dandamo Natip to have an initial statement on this particular measure, Mr. Speaker.
The lady proponent, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Attorney Maysara Damdaman Latif, is recognized for her authorship speech and manifestation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, members of the Parliament, colleagues. Section 6, Article 9 of RA 11054 provides that the Bangsamoro government shall fully respect human rights. The resolution provides that it strongly deplores acts of violence and discrimination in all regions of the world committed against individuals because of their sexual identity, orientation, or genders. On June 8, 2021, a local news outlet posted photos showing residents of the municipality of Pampatuan forced to have their heads shaved in front of people, including those who are in uniform. The activity report of the Bangsamoro Women Commission conducted a fact-finding in aid of legislation on the incident that I have read yesterday, and provides in part that the 6 women were punished for being part of the LGBTQ community. The report further provides that the victim showed signs of trauma because of the incident, evidenced by the fear of just recalling what had happened to them, that further caused them to cry and tremble, and thereby for the Bangsamoro Women Commission to provide them services such as psychological intervention. Section 1, Article 6 of RA 11054, the Bangsamoro Organic Law, provides that the Bangsamoro is an integral, indivisible, and inseparable part of the territory of the Republic of the Philippines, and that the people shall uphold the Constitution as the fundamental law of the land, and unequivocally owe allegiance and fidelity to the Republic of the Philippines. The Republic of the Philippines is among the signatories of the UN Charter of 1954, making the country one of its original charter signatories. Thus, the Philippines and the Bangsamoro adhere to the declaration by the UN, subscribing to the common program of purposes and principles embodied in the Charter to promote adherence to the Charter and to provide protection against violence and discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Thus, we condemn the public shaming of the 6 young women whose heads were shaved in public view in the province of Maguindanao as punishment for allegedly being member of the LGBTQ community. Mr. Speaker, I hope that the members of the Parliament will pass this resolution, likewise what we have done yesterday, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Maysara Latif.
Mr. Speaker, any members of the Parliament like to interpellate?
But before that, before I recognize the gentleman from Tamparan, Taracamasio in Marawi City, I'd like to ask a few basic questions. Where does the lady, the proponent, take in all this information? There's a allegation here in the resolution that the mentioned individuals were pilloried in public for simply being allegedly part of this of the LGBTQ community. Was this based on the police report, or are these information taken from the social media accounts of those who've taken the video during that particular event?
Mr. Speaker, it was based on an official report of
Okay.
a fact-finding investigation, Mr. Speaker. It is not based on social media reports, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much for that reply. MP Paisalin Tago, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh sa ating lahat. At outset, lahat naman tayo ayaw ng diskriminasyon. Pag ikaw ay law-abiding citizen, ayaw mo ng diskriminasyon. Pero may mga katalungan lang ako sa tagasulong ng resolution nito. Gusto kong malinaw kasi ang sinasabi ng resolution that the Bangsamoro, we are calling on the Bangsamoro Transition Authority to promote adherence. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng to promote adherence by the main sponsor? When he stated in the title of the resolution that we should the Bangsamoro Authority to promote adherence. What does it mean, the promote adherence? Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, in an answer to that, the author simply means to say that as one of the Philippines as a signatory to the Human Rights Charter, the Bangsamoro is likewise tasked to strictly adhere also to the UN Charter, being part and parcel of the Republic of the Philippines and also its instrumentality as a local government, as a autonomous government.
Ako tinatanong, Mr. Speaker, because does it mean that we are not complying with the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights or any declaration by the human rights, Mr. Speaker?
No, Mr. Speaker, we did not imply that in the resolution. We simply want the Bangsamoro government to always be at the forefront of protection against violence and discrimination.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, kaya ako tinatanong yan kasi regarding what happened in the municipality, is that in the municipality of Pampatuan? Similar yung kahapon, wala bang pagkakapaano ng kahapon? Yung sa kahapon, Mr. Speaker, yung kahapong resolution regarding LGBTQ rin.
That was an incident happened in Datupiang.
Datupiang. This one
Yes.
is a municipality in Ampatuan. In the municipality in Ampatuan, who perpetrated the shaming of the LGBTQ? Mr. Speaker, may I know from the author if he has knowledge who perpetrated the shaming of the LGBTQ in municipality of Ampatuan?
Mr. Speaker, the fact-finding report did not mention the perpetrators because they're still also being under investigation right now, Mr. Speaker.
So hindi pa alam.
The WCD, Women's, Children's, PNP of Ampatuan Protection Desk is still gathering, yes, Mr. Speaker. We cannot preempt, Mr. Speaker, their ongoing investigation.
Kaya ko tinatanong niya, Mr. Speaker, because even our national government is has policy on discrimination, especially yung Danger 6. Kaya nga sa Senado, may pinapasa yung sinatawag nating SOGI bill for the transgender. So maraming dapat dapat parusahan yung nagko-commit ng diskriminasyon. So Mr. Speaker, may I ask the sponsor of the measure, so is he aware na mayroon ding pinapasa sa Kongreso na yung tinatawag na SOGI bill o napasa na sa Kongreso?
I am aware, but I do not know the contents of that bill, Mr. Speaker.
So hindi pa yata naipasa. I think this is a deadlock yata in the Senate. So sa akin lang, Mr. Speaker, dapat malinaw yung Mr. Speaker, yung resolution nito kasi in due time I will file necessary amendments because the resolution calling on the Bangsamoro Transition Authority to promote adherence. Sa aking pananaw, my interpretation of the resolution is that as if the Bangsamoro Transition Authority is not complying with the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. So dapat ang sa aking pananaw, just like a resolution that was approved yesterday, yung condemnation na lang ng pagkaknayan ng who are the perpetrators, and the one implementing the law should punish those who made the shaming of the LGBTQ, because that is really discriminatory at violation of human rights of the people within the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. So that's all, Mr. Speaker. In due time, I will file necessary amendments, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much for the sponsor.
Thank you, MP Paisalin Tago. We now recognize the Deputy Speaker, MP Omar Sema, to be followed by the Good Minority Leader, MP Attorney Liza Alamia, and MP Attorney Suharto Ambuludto. Proceed, MP Deputy Speaker Sema, with your interpellation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader. I only have a few questions for the proponent. I hope she will entertain these questions.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I will gladly entertain questions.
Yeah, to clear out the issue raised by MP, the gentleman from Lanao del Sur, about adherence to the United Nations declarations, on against discrimination. Can you enlighten us on what specific UN declaration on discrimination are you pointing out?
In the resolution itself, it says that the United Nations Human Rights Council, June 30, 2016, provides for the UNDHR provision that everyone is entitled to all rights and freedom set forth in this charter without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, nationality, social origin, property or other birth and status, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, in relation to that, in what form would you, if please enlighten us, in what form can the Bangsamoro government promote such UN declaration?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, just like what we did yesterday, I implore the Parliament to protect the rights of its citizen and against discrimination on account of their religion, and also to protect them against violence, Mr. Speaker. So
Yes.
their right to be protected.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Just like what we passed yesterday.
So you are suggesting that the Bangsamoro government should take an affirmative action on these issues?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. In fact, the Bangsamoro government already took cognizance of this issue, and I would like to point out that I appreciate the Bangsamoro Women Commission and the Office of MP Bainon Caron for conducting the fact-finding investigation, and also for the PNP Women's Children Protection Desk of Municipality of Ampatuan, Mr. Speaker.
So in line with that, what affirmative actions can you suggest to the Bangsamoro government, just in case can you suggest?
Mr. Speaker, we would like to ask that psychosocial services be provided to the victims as well as their families, because apparently, Mr. Speaker, they are still in trauma.
How about thank you, Mr. Speaker. How about the passage of an anti-discrimination bill? How do you look at that?
Mr. Speaker, that is not covered by my resolution, Mr. Speaker. So in due time, maybe the
I think that is the most basic affirmative action that we can do, considering that, as stated by the gentleman from Lanao del Sur, that Congress, both the House of Representatives and the Senate, has yet to pass the anti-discrimination law, which was supposed to have been passed in the 17th Congress. So I think that should be one of the affirmative actions that the Bangsamoro government can take, and I believe that should be incorporated in your resolution.
Mr. Speaker, it's up to the proponent if he wishes to do so in due time, Mr. Speaker. We respect and we submit to his wisdom.
Yeah, because I'm suggesting this because you are asking the Bangsamoro government to promote the rights of the of those promote against discrimination, and I believe that affirmative action should be suggested in the resolution. But nonetheless, Mr. Speaker, I will end my interpellation on that, and I will. I think I would be submitting a proposed anti-discrimination law in due time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker Sema. Minority Floor Leader, please proceed with your interpellation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much to the, I would like to applaud the initiative of MP Maisara Latif, the proponent, for filing this resolution, and I would like to join her in this resolution as one of the co-authors. Mr. Speaker, considering the questions that were asked earlier, just for clarification so that this will be very clear, I would like to ask the proponent, Mr. Speaker, with respect to the penultimate, the dispositive portion of the resolution, what is being stated here is that the BARM government, for the BARM government to condemn the public shaming of the 6 young women. So it's a call for condemnation as one of the acts that would promote adherence to the United Nations Human Rights Council resolution. Is this the case, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, that's also one of the measures that this resolution seeks, that we condemn the act against the 6 young women of the province of Maguindanao and Ampatuan, Mr. Speaker. But also, Mr. Speaker, the first clause of the dispositive portion calls for protection against violence and discrimination. So meaning, Mr. Speaker, it has two-pronged approach. Number 1 would be protection. Number 2 would be us not tolerating these kinds of acts against the young women in question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Very glad to know that. So the later in the period, I would be proposing, if the proponent would agree, some amendments to incorporate at the dispositive portion what is included in the first or second paragraph of the resolution, and that is it's a forward-looking resolution. It does not only condemn the act that was committed against these girls who identify themselves as a part of the LGBTQ++ community, but also to prevent the occurrence of the same deplorable act that was committed against these young girls by incorporating at the end of the resolution an additional resolved or dispositive portion where the government, the Bangsamoro government, is ensure and that they identify with to be protected and promoted, and such acts to be prevented. Mr. Speaker, the other thing that I would like to point out is that all of the rights that are mentioned here in the resolution that was filed by the good proponent MP Maysara Latif is not just part of the obligation of the Philippines and the Bangsamoro government as one of the duty bearers in this country, as based on what is required upon us by the UN Human Rights Council resolutions, by the UN General Assembly through the conventions and treaties that we are signatories to, but also because of what is stated in our Constitution, and that is the Equal Protection Clause of our Constitution. I would just like to put that on record, Mr. Speaker, that the Equal Protection Clause stated in the Constitution applies in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, and so everyone has equal rights, especially before the law. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I will be making the proper proposed amendments at the proper time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minority Leader. We now recognize MP Suharto Ambulutu to be followed by MP Eddie Ali and MP Ras Mitmag. MP Ambulutu, proceed with your interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do understand that the proponent would yield to some clarification. Our esteemed sister MP Maysara, on the base, what we see here are excerpts of an after activity report of the Bangsamoro Women Commission. Do you have can you advise us if there's any information whether action has been taken on this by the Philippine National Police? It appears that the shaming has been done in public. Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, according to the Bangsamoro Women Commission report, the PNP, Women's Children Protection Desk, already took cognizance and is currently doing their job in investigating and holding the perpetrators accountable.
Were they not aware, were they not informed, or at least were they not aware that such acts have been perpetrated in the very town plaza of the aforesaid municipality, the Philippine National Police?
Mr. Speaker, I cannot answer for the Philippine National Police because that is already a question that will be addressed to the police.
Exactly, MP Maysara, our dear sister. Now, on another point, you made mention of the BARM government having already taken cognizance of the situation or the incident, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, through the Bangsamoro Women Commission. So it is the BARM government, Mr. Speaker, who took the initial step of doing a fact-finding investigation along with the police, Mr. Speaker. So the PNP together with the Women Commission, Mr. Speaker. So the BARM government is proactive, Mr. Speaker. So we appreciate very much the existence of the Bangsamoro Women Commission in protecting and ensuring that acts like this will not be tolerated, but rather we will take proactive action. So we appreciate very much MP Bainon Caron.
And we are still, yes, thank you, Sister MP Maysara, Madam Latif. And we are still asking the Bangsamoro government to condemn, after having taken cognizance of the situation or the incident. We are still asking with this resolution that the Bangsamoro government condemn the public shaming. So the action that was taken by the Bangsamoro government falls short of condemning the incident.
Mr. Speaker, this is the Parliament speaking. If you remember, the Bangsamoro government is separate entity. So we are expressing the sense of the Parliament that we join the collective wisdom of this representation as the collective wisdom, that not just what happened to Dato Piang versus the men, but also let us also have equal response to young women who are victims of these kinds of violence. So we are expressing our collective sentiment.
Thank you for that. And so when we mean that by condemning the public shaming, you were referring to the condemnation of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, and which is distinct from requesting the Bangsamoro government to promote adherence to the United Nations Human Rights Council resolution on the protection against violence and discrimination based on sexual orientation. So dalawang distinct track po ito.
Mr. Speaker, because as parliaments, as a member of the parliament, and as the Bangsamoro Parliament, we are the ones who will issue this. Will be the one to issue this collective sentiment, and the Bangsamoro government, Mr. Speaker, will be the one to make sure, as the vehicle of this parliament, to implement the laws.
Just to clear on basically last question. So what we're saying is that the resolution is two-pronged. One, first, so that the dispositive portion be more clearly articulated. One is that it is asking that the BTA resolves that the Bangsamoro Transition Authority condemns the act. That's one. And then second, that it's urges the Bangsamoro government to promote adherence. I think I'm following the track that was already initiated by MP Paisalintago kanina. So just want to be clear na ito yung gusto nating mangyari. Our dear esteemed sister, MP Maysara Dandaman. That's my last question.
Yes, I think what MP Paisalintago and now MP Suharto Ambuluto, although without explicitly citing the rule that we've already also discussed in the previous session, that a resolution in a bill should contain only one subject matter and purpose, and just citing these two intention in the resolution, we may be able to somehow step on the ruling by the House under the House rules that there will be only one subject matter of each resolution or bill intended for particular purpose. I think that is where MP Paisalintago and MP Ambuluto would try to direct the attention of this parliament.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I think we are not violating the one subject matter rule, considering that we, in the act of not tolerating an act, means we are not going to do acts that will affirm the very dastardly act that is happening. So when you say that you condemn, you have an equal obligation to protect. Those are twin elements. So when you say you just condemn, but you do not
Meaning
act,
they are not mutually exclusive.
yes, Mr. Speaker, one cannot exist without
Mr. Speaker.
the other.
Yes, you
Mr.
please proceed.
Speaker.
MP Ambuluto, yes, MP Ambuluto, you
Last,
still
just
have
to,
the floor.
yes, MP Maysara, the thing there is that the first clause does not speak of protection. The first clause speaks of adherence to a resolution on protection. Ang object niya is not protection itself, but the resolution. And then in the second part, it is the act of condemning. So I share sentiment of the esteemed member of parliament. I support the gist of the resolution, but I just want to be very, very clear that what we are asking here is that for this BTA to condemn the act of public shaming, as straight and pointed. So yung hemba tungkol sana, if you want to still continue with asking the Bangsamoro government to adhere, but the thing is that the condemnation should not simply be an instrument of adherence. The condemnation should be a resolute expression of the sentiment of this august body. Just my idea of my dear esteemed sister, MP Maysara Dandaman. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We understand and we are amenable to any amendment in the title as well as in the dispositive portion.
Thank you, MP Ambuluto. We now proceed We now proceed to the next interpellator, MP Eddie Ali, to be followed again by MP Ras Mitmag and MP Joe Lorena and MP Sultan Rimbang in that order. MP Professor Eddie Ali, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to commend Sister MP Maysara for filing this resolution. It shows to us that the Parliament does not, does not allow any discrimination. We are against any discrimination of all sorts. Magna Carta of Women, that is Republic Act 9710, mentions that no one should suffer any form of discrimination against ethnicity, gender, age, language, sexual orientation, and so on. And the Constitution, as mentioned by some members of the Parliament, also guarantees the right to be free from discrimination. The Constitution, our Constitution, the law of this country talk about anti-discrimination policy of government. That's why I said I commend Sister MP Maysara for filing this resolution. But I just would like to have one clarificatory question, Mr. Speaker. When we say we promote non-discrimination on the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, I just would like to be clear, Mr. Speaker, that does it mean that the Bangsamoro government is short of our expectation, for being in the implementation of the anti-discrimination laws of this country? Just that. Are we short of our expectation? Anong ginagawa ng ating mahal na gobyerno? Kasi sinabi kanina ng aking sister na MP Maysara that the Bangsamoro government was even proactive in this case. There was an investigation. The Bangsamoro government, did its part, and the Bangsamoro women did its part. So, but we are still saying that we would like the Bangsamoro Transition Authority to promote, non-discriminatory policy of government. So I just would like to be clear about it, Sister MP Maysara. I am with you. I would like to be associated with this resolution.
Sir Speaker,
Sister MP Maysara.
nowhere in the resolution mentions any shortcoming on the Bangsamoro government. In fact, as I said, the Bangsamoro government through the Bangsamoro Women Commission has proactively responded to the situation, and they did not shelve it or set it aside. So that's the reason why we have the basis of our resolution is the report. So there is no shortcoming, I believe, on the part of the Bangsamoro government, just for us to express our collective sentiment that we need to condemn the act and we need to protect further the women in our midst, Mr. Speaker.
I support our proponent, our sister proponent, and I just would like to be clear about it. And if you won't mind, I would like to be associated with the resolution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Certainly, Mr. Speaker, I am very happy that MP Eddie Ali, Mr. Speaker, would like to join also.
Thank you. We proceed now to the next interpellator, MP Rasul Mitmag.
Maraming salamat. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker. If our MP Maysara amenable for questions, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, naintindihan ko po na may action ng nagawa through the Bangsamoro Women yung ating government of the day. Kasi pag sinabi mo pong government of the day, that's the whole of our executive branch. Tapos tayo yung sa legislative branch, BTA Parliament. So with this policy in mind, Mr. Speaker, pag sinabi, naintindihan ko din na yung pag-condemn natin is already a positive action taking. It's a way of protecting din yung mga victims. Ang question ko po, Mr. Speaker, gusto ko lang maging klaro kung sa isip ba ng ating proponent is may specific organs or specific units sa Bangsamoro government who should do the condemnation, or once we release this issue as a Bangsamoro Parliament na sinabi natin this is the policy, we condemn these acts, lahat ba ng government government units natin should release an issue? For example, si BHRC mag-release siya ng statement as such, BCW, si Sports, si OCM, lahat ba sila mag-release ng statement in relation dito sa ating resolution? Yun lang yung gusto kong malaman kung yun yung intention natin, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, that was not part of the resolution, so it is not our intention, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, so ang ibig sabihin, Mr. Speaker, pagka nagawa natin itong resolution, we just have a statement as a Bangsamoro Parliament na condemning these acts. Nothing more from the Bangsamoro government.
Well, I think the Bangsamoro Parliament, being the highest policy-making body in the region, would cover all ministries and all other instrumentalities within the BARM once we come out with this resolution, and that would reflect the entire sentiment of the region, because the Parliament is the highest policy-making body in the region.
Okay.
Yes, please proceed, Empiras.
And also, Mr. Speaker, we have to remind ourselves that the Parliament is the voice of the people. We represent the voice of the people in the Parliament. So when we say that we do not tolerate acts of violence, then that's also.
Will be it okay for our Mr. Speaker, for our proponent, if we can add as such, Mr. Speaker, that this policy shall be taken as a statement by all units of government of the Bangsamoro government. Ibig sabihin, they should have a positive act na this should not be done. Mr. Speaker.
Wala.
Wala.
Nawala. Plenary ang nawala.
Parang na-cut off.
Na-cut off.
Pero
Ayun. Wala.
Wala, no?
Wala, nasa plenary. Tayo ang okay. Ox na ox tayo. Sige, fire away.
Session resumed. MP Ras, did you hear the last statement or the reply of MP Maysara?
Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, hindi po.
Yes, we were cut off. No, so apologies. MP Maysara, would you like to restate again your reply?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, as I said, this is a collective sentiment. It's a policy statement, as you have mentioned. So we believe that this covers all the entire Bangsamoro government, as well as its instrumentalities and entities within its territorial jurisdiction.
MP Ras, do you have further interpellation?
No more questions, Mr. Speaker. Salamat po, Mr. Speaker.
Okay,
Mr. Speaker,
thank you.
before that, Mr. Speaker, may we respectfully recognize MP Sultan Rimbang?
Yes, we have Majority Leader. I have the list of all the
yes.
interpellators, so we will
And
follow.
MP Jose
Yes.
Lorena.
We will follow the lineup. So after MP Lorena, Sultan Rimbang will follow, and then after MP Rimbang, MP Musa,
Mr. Speaker.
Diamla, in that order.
Mr. Speaker, may I just again reiterate that this is just a reiteration of what we have passed yesterday, PR number 526. So they are similarly situated, and there are similar measures, Mr. Speaker, condemnation and protection, Mr. Speaker. Yun po yung kahapon na exhaustively diniscuss natin, and then we're discussing it again. It just happened at this time, young women naman, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you for that information and clarification. MP Lorena, you please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Leader, for giving me this opportunity. First, I'd like to laud the effort of my sister, MP Maysara Latif, for introducing another resolution on equality. I always support the provision on equality. If the gentlewoman from Lanao would yield to some clarificatory questions.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we are open to clarificatory questions.
Thank you. The resolution speaks of two things: condemnation and advancing the rights by protecting the rights. There was a question raised by MDS Omar Sema on affirmative action. Would it be appropriate if the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, as a policy-making body of this government, direct the local government unit through our MILG to publish in a conspicuous place the rights of children, the rights of women, and the rights of LGBT as contained in the Human Rights Declaration as already contemplated in this resolution? Would that advance the support to the protection of gender identity and others against violence and discrimination? In your view?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, among others, that would, of course, that would also advance the protection against violence and discrimination, Mr. Speaker. That's another measure, yes, Mr. Speaker, among others, Mr. Speaker.
If you have knowledge, are our local government units publishing have declarations of Magna Carta for children, for women, and especially on equality within the premises of that? If you only have knowledge, because I would be seeking a report from the MILG in another resolution if the answer is no. But if from your knowledge, do you have seen
To
many
my
of these?
knowledge, to my personal knowledge, I have no information nor belief that this Magna Carta on the rights of children, women are being published in the vicinity of the municipalities concerned.
Thank you. Under our GOD program, and particularly on rights of women and children, there is what is called localization of GOD programs. I really don't know if there is also a program on the localization of the rights of women and children in the light of the violence that we have. So, Madam Speaker, again, I join you, but I hope you would yield to some amendments in the period of amendments. I just put the text context of the amendment that I will be pushing. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, certainly we will open ourselves to amendment.
Thank you. MP Sultan Rimbang to be followed by MP Musa Diemla and MP Abdul Mukmin Mujahid. MP Rimbang, please proceed with your interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, Members of Parliament, my guest staff. Thank you very much sa aking kagalang-galang na ipag ni May Saradan Damin Latep from Tugaya. So, hindi ibig sabihin ay magtatanong po ako rito ay against po ako sa mga kababaihan. Tandaan po natin ay isa po tayo sa naglalaban sa karapatan po ng mga women. Kayo po mga kababayan, kayo po yung mga ina namin. Ina kayo ng taong bayan. Kasi kung wala yung mga kababayan, na wala rin, hindi lalakas ang loob ng mga kalalakihan. So, ito po yung may hadith po dito na Propeta Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mapum na pimor ka Allah, yung lalaki na gumagaya siya na parang babae. Pimor ka Allah, yung babae na naging ginagaya rin niya yung mga kalalakihan. So kaya po tinatanong natin to, Mr. Speaker, dahil kung i-condemn natin to, hindi kaya lumakas ito yung mga babae na sumusupak sila sa agama, patulad na mga babae na kahit alam man natin na talagang totoo siyang babae, minsan nangyayari yan sa atin sa Lanao del Sur, kasi dito, minsan, video speaker, Mr. Speaker, may magkwento lang ako na idea. Minsan din yung mga magulang natin nahihirapan pag may anak na babae. Kasi yung mga anak na babae nagtutumbuy-tumbuyan. Pag may makagusto sa kanya, kasi sa Islam man, pag umabot ka na 20 years o 15 years sa Islam na may mag-aasawa sa'yo, kailangan mapangasawa ka, hindi siya makasilay ka. What I mean, hindi siya kumuha ka ng asawa sa labas na haram sa Islam. So, hindi natin maintindihan kung i-condemn natin to na labag sa Islam. Sa aking pananaw, ako ay nagpapasalamat kay Atty. May Saradan Damin Latep kasi konsenso sa mga kababayan. Mr. Speaker, kung natatanda natin yung panahon ni Mahid Mutilan, Pakasurguan Wala, yung tanong, amyon agubinador sa Lanao del Sur, mayor pa siya yatanong ng Marawi. Yung kasama niya yung mga alim na mayroon siyang, mayroon yata kinalbuan, tulad din ito, parang naalala ko, bata pa ako noon eh. Kinalbuan dahil nga una, totoong babae nagtutumitumbuyan. Pangalawa, walang saplot sabok. Mr. Speaker, pag kasi tinerolit natin yung bagay na ito, hindi kaya yung Islam, wag po natin kalilimutan mga brother and sister, Members of Parliament, na kaya po napaka-autonomy na tayo dito sa Bangsamoro. Dahil po sa Islam tayo. Kung wala po yung Islam, hindi po tayo magkakaroon ng Bangsamoro government. Kaya ano ba ang pinaglalaban natin? Di ba Islam? Pero labag ito sa Islam, mga brother ko. Yan lang ang tanong ko muna, Mr. Speaker.
But before we allow the good lady from Tugaya to respond to that question, I believe there's one question in that manifestation. I would humbly apologize to the good gentleman from Maging that I would direct the Secretariat to strike out the words that were used. Tomboy, that is a derogatory word to describe certain group. Yes, we adhere to the Islamic principles and we do not condone anything that is bad. وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. We know that. But as the policy-making body of this parliament, of this region, and we are under the Philippine Constitution, we adhere to the highest manner of discussing certain issues. And therefore, I would like to direct the Secretariat to please strike out the words that are derogatory that will demean the dignity of women. So directed. MP May Sara, please respond.
In addition, Mr. Speaker, I would also ask this honorable body to refrain words that are cursing words, because this does not belong to our religion, Mr. Speaker. So I would also like the Secretariat to strike out words that are, for me, I cannot even utter, Mr. Speaker, being a Muslim.
Curses that were used or delivered in our vernacular is stricken out from the record, so directed.
Speaker, as we have laid down, if the good gentleman is amenable to one question only, one question on my part to answer everything that is stated.
I believe the process is to respond to the question of the gentleman.
So my
please respond.
statement, Mr. Speaker, as a member of the Parliament, we took an oath that we adhere to the Constitution as well as all the charters that we, as members of the Republic of the Philippines, had adhered to, and also as stated in our very own charter, the Bangsamoro Organic Law, Section 6. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe that the statements that he has mentioned a while ago has already been answered with the interpellation a while ago, that this resolution is in accordance with the highest law of the land, the 1987 Constitution, the Bangsamoro Organic Law, to which we all adhere to, as well as the United Nations Human Rights Charter, as well as, I believe, Mr. Speaker, no less than Allah said that you cannot compel anyone to religion. Who are you to say that? Because I am the changer of hearts. He admonished that nobody can force anyone. So I believe, Mr. Speaker, we cannot speak about religious connotation without taking in the full context what our religion is all about. It's all about tolerance. It's about non-violence. It's about non-coercion. It's about inclusivity. And it's about us asking grace from God to change hearts and not men who will do that. Because the moment you do that, Mr. Speaker, I believe that you're already part of those that Allah said you are so arrogant that you think that you are the one who can force people to change their hearts. It's only I who can do that. And if you read that in the Quran, you will understand that.
MP Rimbang, please proceed. Do you have further?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I understand Attorney May Sara. Kasi yung pangyayari na ito, kaya nangyari sa isang municipality o isang lugar o na ang pinapanindigan ng gumawa o nag-implement ng batas ng Islam o batas ng LDO ay naayon sa Islam. Hindi po nila ito gagawin, hindi po natin tumatawag na lilabag natin yung violation ng mga kababayan dahil ginawa po ito ng mga LDO o other sa Islam. Kasi sa along ko sa Mujahideen, yan rin po yung pinapatupad nila na kailangan ifsan yung batas na Islam. Kasi wala rin naman saysay yung batas na Islam kung di natin implement. Alam natin na hindi full tayo naka-autonomy. Kasi ang full na naka-autonomy, may sarili natin yung presidente. Pero nagpapasalamat tayo sa ating mahal na Pangulo kahit papano nabigay sa atin yung iniling natin sa pangkat sabi ng Islam. So, hindi yan magagawa ng mga gumawa kung hindi una yung inulit ko po, Mr. Speaker, kung hindi naayon sa Islam, kung hindi pinag-utos ng Islam, kung hindi pinag-utos ng LDO, kung anumang sino yung nakakasakop dito na LDO, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, do you have a response to that, MP Maysara?
If the gentleman has any amendment, we are open to that, Mr. Speaker. But for me, I cannot tolerate any acts of violence against all persons, Mr. Speaker. It's not just women, men, children, or other, but I cannot, Mr. Speaker, to my own conscience do that because I adhere to the religious principle that even the prophet, when he admonished people, he speaks very gently.
You have, meron pa po kayong
Yes,
katanungan?
Mr. Speaker, haba yung discussion namin sa ipag po na ito. Siguro ang sa akin lang suggestion ay una, general condemn. Pangalawa ay medyo aralin natin itong resolution para naman yung pagka-Islam natin, pagka-Bangsamoro natin na kahit alam natin na sumasama tayo sa lingguhay, mga nangyayari ngayon sa bansa natin kasi kahit naman Islam tayo ngayon, ay kailangan yung sa national government, yung batas ng Republic of the Philippines na naayon sa Islam ay sumama tayo. Pero wag naman sana na ang Islam ay medyo alam natin na kaya nga kahit sa ibang daigdig ang daming with due respect, hindi naman tayo mga kriminal. Kaya nga maraming namamatay o maraming nagdidihad dahil nga nababiolate yung nasa Quran po. Yun lang sa akin po kasi mismo nabasa ko yun sa hadith na yung sinabi ko ngayon na sana po Attorney Maysara Damilate pakingipag na may tindihan po natin na wag po natin masyado ibaba ang ating angkan, ang Islam. Yun lang po, Mr. Speaker. Nagpapasalamat po ako sa Bangsamoro Parliament. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
Mr. Speaker, I take exception to his statement attributing me or associating me to any of his statement. I disavow any of the statements that he made because as a law-abiding citizen that has taken an oath before allegiance before the Republic of the Philippines and also as a Muslim, I cannot tolerate, as I said, and I condemn to the highest degree any acts of violence against young women, in particular what happened to this case.
Yes, this disclaimer is duly noted.
Mr. Speaker.
We have a list here. So we have a list here. So we proceed with MP Musa. If that we proceed with MP Musa Diamla to be followed by MP Abdul Mukmin Mujahid. And then maybe MP Hashim, would you like to be recognized later on after MP Abdul Mukmin Mujahid?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, we will recognize you after MP Abdul Mukmin Mujahid. So MP Musa Diamla, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Majority Leader. Mine is I am thinking of the severness of our resolution because I understand that this is a toothless resolution for only condemning. If we only condemn and speak out to condemn without punishing the perpetrators of such crime, then it will be toothless. So I wish that the author will include in some provisions of the resolution that in addition to condemning, we will ask for the law enforcement agencies, particularly the Ministry of Interior and Local Government, being the governing agency. I mean, the agency under which is the local police, to do something about condemning this. Because if you look at the resolution, we only condemn by condemning. So that's all, Mr. Chair. I hope the author will make some provision on that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Musa Diamla, for that manifestation. MP Mujahid, please proceed with your interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Actually, mine, Mr. Speaker, is not necessarily questioning the proponent of the resolution, the person of MP Maysara Tandamon Latif. But mine, Mr. Speaker, is just to share some parts of our religion. Actually, it was one of the hadiths that I want to point it out is to the what Mr. MP Rimbang is already read. Yung sinabi niya, yung sa Arabic kasi, la'anallahu al-mutashabbihina bin nisa'i wal mutashabbihati al-mutashabbihati minan bil-rijal o kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But I really support the resolution, not only to condemn the perpetrators of such kind of those who do that. Parang nakita natin, yes, gusto po natin ipairal ang batas ng Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, but at the same time, dapat din marunong tayong maggalang sa ating kapwa, and particularly that we are not Islamic State, and we opted na tinatanggap nga natin ang autonomous government. So actually nahihirapan nga tayo, Mr. Speaker, because we are balancing being a Muslim and being also under the Philippine Constitution. Tayo nga ang nahihirapan dito dahil yun na nga, sinabi ni Brother MP Rimbang, dapat din ipagtanggol natin o kaya ipairal natin kung anong kagustuhan ng Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala sa atin. At yun din po ang mga dahilan bakit tayo nagkipag-baka, bakit tayo nagkaroon ng nag-struggle for the how many decades. Dahil yun po gusto natin ipagtanggol ang ating yung paniniwala, pananampalataya sa Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Pero ganun pa man, tulad ng nasabi po natin, tinanggap po natin ang autonomiya, and as also stated by MP Maysara na we have an oath-taking to really comply with the Philippine Constitution. So with that, Mr. Speaker, kung ang ano lang po natin, i-balance na lang po natin yung mga naggumawa po noon na talagang sa atin po na wag nilang gawin yon, at hindi lamang po hanggang doon. Kung maaari lang po, sana talagang let's entrusted this to the law enforcer, yung mga kapulisan po natin, kung ano pong dapat na mga parusa sa mga ganitong pangyayari. And at the same time also, Mr. Speaker, na gusto rin natin i-remind ang ating mga kapatid na Muslim, babae man, lalaki man, na wag naman sana parang binaliwala nila po ang ating kultura o being a Muslim, tulad ng nabanggit po natin, dahil mismo po yung Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ang nag-remind po sa atin, yung kinukures po, yung sinong mga kababaihan, yung tinutularan po nila ang mga kalalakihan. Ganon din, kinukures din ng Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala yung mga kalalakihan din na tinutularan nila yung mga kababaihan. So that's all, Mr. Speaker. So as again, ako pa ay sumusuporta sa resolution po na yan, at na dapat po na talagang ipamigay natin o kaibigay natin po sa mga kapulisan po natin kung ano po mga karapat-dapat na mga gawin tungkol po sa pangyayari po yun. So yun lang po, Mr. Speaker. Salamat po.
Thank you, MP Mujahid. MP Hashim, you're recognized. Please proceed, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. This is actually not an interpellation, but I just want to make a manifestation on some of the statements that were stated previously. I would like to put it on record that Islam is a beautiful religion. It is a beautiful and pure religion. And I personally follow a strict understanding of Islam upon the Prophet, following the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his companions, and the pious predecessors. But at the same time, I do not want Islam to be misrepresented. Again, what was mentioned, the hadith that was mentioned about the male imitating the women and the women imitating the male, I follow that, I believe that, and I adhere to that. But the thing is, there is this hadith which is, whoever of you sees an evil action, let him change it with his hand. And if he is not able to do so, then with his tongue. And if he is not able to do so, then with his heart, and that is the weakest of faith. Now, the ones, as the scholars have explained, the ones who changes with his hand is the state or the authorities. So as individuals, we cannot just implement the Sharia with our own hand, because that would lead to chaos. It should be the state to do that. Now, of course, we are under the Republic of the Philippines. And more specifically, we are now on BARM. So we should leave it to the authorities. And if it is at the level that it is not yet fully the Islamic perspective of it, then alhamdulillah ala kulli hal. The important thing is we have reached this far. Islam does not support chaos. It does not support vigilantism. It does not support terrorism. So I do not support the actions of whoever were those who put the justice in their hands. I am not even sure if their actions were following the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because remember, in Islam, the only actions that are accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is written, ordered by Allah, written in the Quran, and in the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anything done other than that, it is not accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, MP Hashim. I would personally encourage you to participate in every discussion because you will provide us with good inputs. Thank you very much for that manifestation. We recognize the gentleman from Basilan, MP Al-Satar.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Hello. Can you hear me, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, we can hear you clearly, MP Satar. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Actually, magandang paksa po ang pinag-uusapan natin. Una-una is sa tingin ko, yung implementation of Sharia wala pa po sa atin. In fact, hindi pa nga natin, kahit yung Office of Sharia, hindi pa natin nagawa. So, kung ano man yung kasalanan ng nakikita natin ngayon sa society in terms of Islam, hindi pa natin pwede bigyan ng punishment without the presence of the Sharia court. Halimbawa, I'm talking about sa BARM po. Then pangalawa, kung meron man tayong nakikita na hindi maganda, mas maigi siguro na una kausapin yung mga tao na gumawa ng ganon. Kaya nga meron tayong Darul Ifta. I think isa yan sa mga dapat pagtuunan ng pansin ng Darul Ifta. Kaya nga tayo nagpatayo o tinayo natin yung Darul Ifta, istamuruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhauna 'anil munkar, has authority, kumbaga. Although wala ngang karapatan ang Sharia ang Darul Ifta to implement the Sharia kasi nga wala pa ang office ng Sharia. But in terms of admonition, in terms of reminding the people, those who are doing things against the Sharia, ay dapat po gawin nila. Pangatlo po, Mr. Speaker, that is, ang kinokondem siguro yung ginagawa, hindi yung buong pagkatao ng isang tao. Kasi these are two different things man eh. Yung tao as humanity, magkaiba po yon doon sa kanyang ginagawa. Kaya ang suggestion ko po dyan is, Mr. Speaker, is kung meron man mga ganyan na bagay is you should be clever enough to condemn ba o kaya gumawa ng anumang bagay na hindi po naayon sa batas. Kung titignan natin ang history ng Propeta Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Mr. Speaker, is that ang kanyang dawa ay napakaganda. May due process kumbaga, hindi basta-basta pagkaroon ng punishment, especially legal punishment, na without due process of law. Yun lang po ang sa akin, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, MP Safar, for that manifestation. We recognize the Minister of Social Services, MP Attorney Raisa Jajuri.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Presiding Officer. I would like to ask a few questions regarding the matter regarding PR Resolution 486 to be addressed to the author.
Yes, please proceed with your interpellation. That is supposed to be the nature of this parliamentary status debate and parliamentary debate. So proceed po.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May we know from the author, Mr. Speaker, whether she knows of any other agency in the BARM that responded to the needs of the victims, those 6 women whose heads were shaved sometime in June 2021?
As far as I know, Mr. Speaker, based on this report that was given to me, it is the PNP and then also the BWC, Mr. Speaker, and Office of MP Caron.
Maybe I will just bring this up during the period of amendment if the author is willing to also recognize the efforts of other agencies and show that there had been some action on the part of the Bangsamoro government. But that if this may not be enough and therefore there's a need to strengthen other measures for any other incident similar to this. But at the onset, I'd just like to mention that the Ministry of Social Services provided psychosocial counseling to 5 of the 6 women because one was not there and could not, I think she was staying with an uncle. And that the ministry also facilitated the stay of the victims in a temporary shelter, specifically the Bahay Pag-asa of the LGU, the municipal LGU of Ampatuan, and provided them as well some goods and as part of the reintegration effort after their stay in the Bahay Pag-asa, reintegration with their families. That's all, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
I think they're already responding to your manifestation.
Sila naman yata nawala sa linya. Host.
Mr. Speaker, may I be recognized?
Wala si host.
Naputol. Hello,
Standby
Rai.
doon, standby.
How are you?
siyang natitirang Arab.
Mr. Speaker, MP Jackie, I want to be
Session resumed. Session resumed. We ask again.
Wala naman.
Sir Speaker, we cannot hear you.
Wala uli.
Yes. Night.
Marinig.
Parang na-disconnect ulit, no?
O disconnect.
Class. Session suspended.
Yun ang narinig.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam, naririnig niyo na ako dyan?
Yes po.
Yes.
Waalaikum, Mar.
Salam. MP Alzad.
Oh, kumusta?
Alhamdulillah, I'm blooming,
Graduate
poging-pogi
ka
ko
na.
ngayon, Oh.
Graduate ka na. Ha?
Laya na, laya.
Laya na, no? Alhamdulillah. Mas gumuwapo ka nga, puting-puti.
Suspended.
Nag-ano ko,
Wala pa na suspended ka.
parliamentary redistrict niya ako dito sa
Loud and clear.
Okay, so mag-start na ulit tayo. Pasensya na. Session resumed.
Okay.
We recognize MP Jaquilan. Please, Your Honor, proceed with your interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. MP Mai, would you answer only one query, if you may? Hello.
Please proceed, MP Jaquilan.
I am directing my Single question to MP Maysara Damdam Lapid.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we will accept the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gist of the resolution is about the violence, isn't it?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, it's about uh, the act of violence and discrimination against these 6 young women. In
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Kasi kung violence ang pag-usapan, no one is allowed to make any violent reaction to anybody except on 3 occasions. Firstly, kung ang religion natin na ang tinanggal sa atin, we can even fight even to the extent of ending our life. Pangalawa, when our family is being attacked or in grave danger, we are authorized by our religion and even by law to defend our family. Kahit pa siguro mamatay tayo, but there are also some I think not necessary to die in that case. We are given leeway to find another time to yung parang gaganti tayo. Pangatlo, when our property is taken, forcibly taken by somebody. And beyond that, the violence cannot be condoned, kaya it's not allowed. So, yung mga violence against mga kababaihan na yan, talagang it should be condemned. No way. Hindi talaga pwede pabayaan yan. But however, tama yung sinabi ng mga previous speakers, previous MPs, the law should be there. The law enforcement should be there. Kasi hindi pwede gawin natin personal ang pag-implement ng law. Except, to reiterate, except on those 3 occasions. Even on the 3 occasions, we may even find some other time kung hindi natin kaya labanin yung nagtanggal ng ating relihiyon, nag-umatake sa ating pamilya, at saka yung kumuha ng ating mga properties. There are other occasions that we can be prepared to fight against them. Now, what more, kung somebody out there, pagkatapos violence ang gawin natin sa kanila, that is totally horrible. And it should not be condoned, it should not be allowed. So I fully support the resolution, I fully support the commendation against the violence, and I want to be identified with the resolution if the author so wishes to accept my inclusion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Jaquilan. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of interpellation and debate.
Before we act on the motion to close the period of debate and interpellation, I'd just like to make a very, very brief manifestation. Life is a self-evident truth. And all creation have inalienable rights to life. We believe that the Parliament adheres to that basic principle. And that is why the Bangsamoro Parliament stands with integrity and dignity. Motion to close the period of debate and interpellation is being moved. Any second? Any objection?
Second.
Been seconded. The period of debate interpellation is hereby closed.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of amendment.
Period of amendment is open. We first acknowledge MP Popoy Tago.
Yes.
To proceed with his interpellation.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Can we hear us?
Yes.
MP Tago?
Yes, I can hear you. Pwede sa
amendment ng
sa
interpellation.
body muna. Pwede sa body muna. Pinaka-last resolve portion.
Can we ask the MPs to please ilista nyo na po, no? Kung which part of the resolution would you like to amend so that we can go directly once your name is being called. It's almost 5 o'clock, past 5 o'clock. So we are actually trying to finish this agenda today. Thank you, MP Popoy. Please proceed.
Yeah, thank you. Now therefore be it resolved by the Bangsamoro Transition Authority to reiterate its policy in promoting the protection of all sectors against discriminations of all persons, and thereby condemns all acts of discrimination or violence, and thereby condemns all acts of discrimination and or violence all acts condemns or acts of discrimination and or violence
All
and
acts
in slash violence against individuals, if especially what happens in the municipality of Pampatuan, Maguindanao, several weeks ago.
I think again,
Especially what happens. Nakuha na? Na-capture? O nawala? Nawala naman yata sila.
against individuals yata or its
Mr.
individuals.
Speaker.
Hear you.
Mr. Speaker,
Nawala siya.
Yes, MP Tago.
MB Tago,
Speaker.
proceed ka na. Naririnig ka naman nila. Naririnig din kayo. Static lang yung signal from the plenary.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Speaker.
Sir Popoy, pa-rejoin.
Poy, naririnig ka man din nila, Poy. Ang mahina yata yung transmittal ng signal nila from plenary.
What happens? Hindi happen. What happens with is what happens in the municipality of Pampatuan, Maguindanao, Lanao del Sur. Lanao.
Maguindanao.
What happens? What happened to the municipality of Maguindanao, Ampatuan, Maguindanao, several weeks ago. In that amendment, Mr. Speaker, narinig ako ni Speaker?
Yes, MP Poy.
Yes. In that amendment, Mr. Speaker, the Bangsamoro Transition Authority and the Bangsamoro government always adheres to the Universal Declaration of Principles in the United Nations in the protection of human rights. We had this, kaya ang nilagay ko diyan reiterates, and we also condemn any form of all forms of discrimination or violence, not only to the LGBTQ or any others. We condemn all of that. That's my justification, Mr. Speaker. So this resolve policy, Mr. Speaker, should be quoted in the title of this resolution, Mr. Speaker, to be consistent. Parang ganyan din ang tema, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
That's my proposal, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr.
MP
Speaker.
Lorena, yeah, but they need to know first. That's why we need to connect the audio with the Zoom, because MP Popoy needs to know first if the proposal is accepted or not. We
Yes,
owe him
that's
that
true.
courtesy. We
That's
owe him
true,
that
Mr.
courtesy. Can
President.
you hear us? Can you hear us? MP Popoy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So
Loud and clear.
Mr. Speaker.
your proposal is accepted. Wait, MP
Thank
Ambuluto
you.
have already recognized MP Lorena, but your MP Popoy, your proposal is accepted by MP Maysara Latif. Later on, we will try to capture that and reflect that in the title, okay?
Thank you very
Speaker,
much, Mr.
just
Speaker.
one note lang,
Yes, MP Maysara. Proceed.
regarding the word several weeks ago, Mr. Speaker. I think we cannot, we should probably not anymore mention that because it's
Okay. Okay, no problem. Wala naman.
Turn on your microphone, MP Lorena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. As intimated earlier, I have some amendments, and this is just to add another resolve in the disposition of the resolution. The amendment would
Wala. Walang sound? Narinig nyo?
Nawalang sound.
if the opponent would accept that. I think resolve further that the Ministry of Local Governments of the BARM be directed to issue a circular directing local government units within the jurisdiction of the BARM to post in conspicuous places the United Nations Resolution on Equality and Non-Discrimination and the Magna Carta or the rights of children and women. That is the amendment, in order that become an affirmative action on our part. Because I believe that would serve as a deterrent, because if people in the local government knows and the people are aware that there is such rights and there is that declaration, that might serve as a deterrent to the commission of violence and discrimination. So if the lady proponent would accept, that would be my proposed amendment.
Yes, I believe the lady proponent will appreciate the proposal if the proposed amendment will be unfortunately, ask the gentleman from Sulu to speak, if possible, down the exact wordings of his proposal, so that
yes, Mr. Speaker, we gladly accept it here.
Okay, thank you very much. MPM Bulod to.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Madam Proponent, I think the main content of this resolution is not to educate the, notwithstanding that there's an imperative to educate our people about the Declaration of Human Rights and United Nations resolutions. I would like to believe that our esteemed proponent filed the proposed bill specifically to communicate our resolve to condemn the shaving of the heads of the 6 women on the basis of their being associated with the LGBTQ community. with due respect to the proposed amendments and enhancement that was proposed by our colleagues, may I respectfully submit for the consideration of the other proponents of the amendments, proponents of other amendments, that we simply focus the title and then the dispositive portion to the condemnation of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority of the shaving of the heads, and as follows. So from the two to the condemning. So yun po yung ano, so that we be unequivocal yung ano, hindi po ma-dilute yung message of condemnation. We may provide this the articulation provided by MP Tago and MP Lorena in the whereas clauses, pero kung pwede po sana, if you will consider the wisdom of simply straightforward providing in the title and in this positive portion to condemn or condemning. Diretso na po yun. So all other sentences prior to condemn, baka pwede nating i-consider removing and then straightforward tayo doon. Yun lang po. Kasi kasi sabi nga ni MP Diamla, bakit condemnation lang? Pero at least yung statement ng Parliament, ng voice of the people is unequivocal and direct. That is a suggestion. Because of the acceptance of the various proposed amendments, I can only submit this to the wisdom of the main sponsor and the proponents of the other amendments na baka pwede po idiretso na lang po natin dyan sa condemning.
Mr. Speaker,
Sige po.
may I be allowed, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, ala, hindi marinig. Mr. Speaker,
Kasi para kasi baka mawala po yung message ni MP Maysara.
pwede rin. Simplified. If it is simplified, pwede rin, condemning lang.
Si MP Jo.
Wala talaga diyan. Hindi na yan maano. Hindi na yan maayos.
Naayos na, naririnig ka na namin, Mr. Speaker. Salita po.
Actually, kapag tutuusin kahingawa lang United Nation kasi mismo si Propeta Muhammad nagsabi khairukum nisa'i linisa'ikum o khairukum o istawsu binisa'i khaira. Yung sinabi ng Propeta Muhammad na para magpakabait tayo sa mga kababaihan po natin.
I-suspend muna kasi hindi tayo magkaintindihan. Baka magalit sila. Naka-online na ba tayo?
Online na, online.
Can you hear us?
Oh, yes.
Yes, we can.
MPM Buluto?
Yes, we request the comment of MP Popoy and MP Tago. Yes. Did you
Mr. Speaker, I move to the fair consideration of this proposed resolution and the two other proposed resolution until the next regular session of this Parliament, Mr. Speaker. Then I further move for the adjournment of this session.
Okay, so further omnibus motion to defer the consideration of PR 486 under the period of amendment, and also to defer the consideration of PR 527 and 529. That's an omnibus motion. Any objection to that motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move for adjournment of the session.
Mr. Speaker,
Session, yes, what is the
baka pwede po
pleasure?
tayo may other matters ako,
May
Mr.
other
Speaker.
matters to.
Ay,
Okay.
wala. Okay. Mr. Speaker, kung hindi po tayo mapagbigyan, kung hindi makarinig yung sa bayan,
Yes,
by
Mr.
Zoom,
Speaker.
I motion
di
to
marinig.
adjourn.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Session is adjourned until October 19, 2021, corresponding to the 13th day of Rabiul Awal 1443. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Basta proud na proud ako sa dual calendar act ko ba?